Revenge is best served frozen. We don't own a car and live at the end of a cul-de-sac. I have people use my driveway all the time to turn around. It's not a huge deal to me, a little annoying when they compact the snow and it's harder to shovel, but whatever. One of my neighbors had a ride service come pick up their child every day. The van would park in my spot and begin honking at like 8 AM. I worked nights at the time. Half the time he'd be half parked on my grass. I told my neighbor that I don't overly mind my spot being used, but not if he's going to honk like that every morning, and especially not if he's going to drive over what little lawn I have every time. She spoke with him, he ignored it. I spoke with him and got, "What's your problem, man? It's not like you're using it." To which I repeated that I don't mind him using it if he stays off my grass and doesn't honk every morning. Apparently suggesting he wait till the kid notices he's there, or, God forbid, he have to drag his ass out of the car to knock on a door was just ridiculous and inhumane of me. So I left a recycle bin at the foot of my driveway. He just ran over it. I called the dispatch for the ride service and was told they are subcontractors and technically self-employed, but they will pass along the message. I wake up the next day to pounding on my door. Dude is pissed. Him. How dare you call my boss, you stupid piece of shit. What the duck is wrong with you? Me. Well, it's quite simple. You were told not to use my driveway if you were going drive on my lawn and wake me up every morning. Now get off my doorstep, him. I'll sue you if I lose my job because of you, me. You've been warned. Don't trespass on my driveway or property again. Dude storms off in a huff spouting obscenities, etc. So this happened on a Thursday. The kids have a PD day the next day, and it's supposed to be one of those delightful Canadian weekends where it drops to like -40°C. For my American friends, -40 is where Celsius and Fahrenheit meet up, so it's freaking cold, lol. So that night, I grabbed one of my more beat-up plastic garbage bins, made sure to plug all the holes with a generous amount of duct tape, stuck a sign on it that read "Private Property, Driveway Not for Public Use," and proceeded to fill it to the brim with water. Now, before anyone thinks I'm a jerk willing to potentially endanger the other kids in the car, I'd like to point out that my neighbor's kid is the first to be picked up, so it's just him in the car. Cue Monday morning. He sees the garbage can, backs up a bit more and defiantly charges the garbage can as if to teach me a lesson, and proceeds to cause some pretty serious damage to the front end of his car. Dude gets out fuming, calls the cops and comes pounding on my door screaming about how I'm going to buy him a new car and that I'm about to be arrested. Cop. So let me make sure I understand this situation. He asked you not to park here if you couldn't refrain from honking, then warned you not to park here and put up a barrier. Now you expect him to be charged and pay for damages you caused yourself to your vehicle in an attempt to destroy his own personal property? I will never forget the look on his face when the officer said, "Yeah, that's not how this works," and turned to me and asking if I wanted to pursue charges for him damaging my personal property. I just gave him the most shit-eating grin I could muster and said, "I think we're good." I then went back inside to enjoy a morning coffee while watching him from my kitchen window as he paced back and forth in the cold waiting for a tow truck and having to call the company he worked for to explain why they needed to send out another driver to complete his route. Edit, thanks for the silver and gold. More edits for closure. No, I never saw him again. As far as the police officer, I wasn't aware that it wasn't up to me, and he didn't say anything about it either. I assume he really didn't want to have to bother with the paperwork and thought I may have gotten upset if he'd said, "Well, I don't see the need to press charges at this point," so he made it seem like it was my choice. Source: I'm somewhat lazy and would likely do the same. A cul-de-sac can also be used to describe a street with no exit, which is exactly where my home is. It's easier for them to use my driveway than three-point turn their way out like Austin Powers. I was drinking morning coffee because they were 6 p.m. 2 a.m. shits. So nights but not quite overnights, and I usually got up at around 10 a.m. Every time he'd wake me up around 8 or so, I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep, hence why I needed him to stop. Finally, I really appreciate all the love and comments this post has received. I assumed a few would get a laugh, but holy crap. I wasn't prepared for this kind of reaction. That being said, I find the sheer number of comments I need to reply to quite overwhelming for my somewhat introverted self. So on that note, I'm out and leave all this accumulated karma to be sacrificed to the Reddit gods. I spend way too much time on here anyways. Glad you all got to have a good laugh. Cheers. Now to the comments. There's a similar post here where OP kept getting his mailbox run over by redneck monster truck neighbor. After the third mailbox replacement, OP buried some rail from the abandoned train track, about 6 deep, and left 3 sticking up and put a mailbox on it. Neighbor totaled his truck on it, called the cops himself. Cops cited redneck neighbor for destruction of property. Karma. My parents did this in the 70s. They lived next to a ballroom dance school. Now that made for some light late night traffic, and an occasional honk. But that was it. Until somebody discovered that the road poles/markers between the road and the parking lot were made of flexible plastic. Don't know if the US has them. They are white semi-rigid plastic with reflectors on them. Anyway, they discovered driving over those markers made a nice rattling sound. To the annoyance of the whole neighborhood. Once one person did that, others followed. Edit, the neighborhood complained to the dance school and authorities to no avail for several weeks. You see where this is going. Somebody, totally not my father, right? Decided one night to dig in a sturdy metal pole directly behind the last plastic one. So the next night, instead of rattling, it was rattling, ending in a thud and cursing people. Nobody drove over the plastic poles after that. The person who is totally not your father is awesome. And all it cost you was a roll of duct tape, some water and a trash can. Congratulations, he played himself. OP replied, only the trash can and duct tape. I don't pay for tap water here. Even better. Justice Boner. Now served chilled. A wise man once said, never hit a man when he's down. Kick him, it's easier on your back. OP replied, that's great advice. You should also follow it up by walking a mile in their shoes. That way when he gets up, you're a mile away and he has no shoes. This felt so satisfying. Though aren't you worried that such an asshole of a person now has a grudge and knows where you live? OP replied, I guess I should have mentioned that this was well over a decade ago. I was reminded of this while reading a story on another subreddit. I never saw him again. Oh, he's out there, plotting his revenge. Should have pressed charges. Assholes get away with being assholes for a long time until someone finally takes them down. He deserved even worse. OP replied, some of the harshest lessons in life are learned through one's pocketbook. I agree, this is why I now have a wallet and left the 19th century pocketbook behind. /sarcasm. This is the kind of story I subscribed for. Literally. I read on a /r/life pro tips thread very recently about a guy whose paid for outdoor parking spot was being taken constantly by the same jerk. So he waited for a big snowfall, also Canada, and made a glacier only his own truck would fit over. Cue crunch and massive front end damage to spot thief's minivan. Someone suggested this sub. Excellent. I have a 25-gallon tub that I catch rainwater in for plants. It got down to 18 F here the other night, and that thing was solid. I can't imagine a 40+ gallon garbage can at 40 F. OP replied, I was cracking the ice every few hours to make sure it froze all the way through. I don't really know if it would have frozen completely if I hadn't. Dang, now that's dedication. I would have salted that wound of his and asked for charges, then not show up to court. OP replied, yeah, that could have worked. I just didn't feel like dealing with him anymore. I understand that sentiment. It's the main reason why so many people don't press charges, a lot of hassle for what, in this case, would have little payoff aside from maybe starting a criminal record. That was cold, man. Well done. Still think pursuing charges would have seasoned that wound with just a perfect amount of salt. OP replied. Yeah, but then I'd potentially have to deal with the situation further. I just wanted to be able to sleep in. Money or sleep? Duck hit. Sleep.